We are back in the house. Arise from Haibo, right? Haibo, you might remember, brought you guys the Steed, right? Love-hate relationship with that reel, some of you guys. But this is an awesome reel so far. Already unboxed it, so we're going to open it back up. But man, we need to take another look at this box. I don't know if this reel is going to make Shimano and Daiwa up their game on reels, but they definitely need to up their game on the boxing of their higher end reels anyway. Because this is one of those, like, you pull it off your shelf if you guys like that would collect reels. Like, this is what you would want a Steez or, you know, any of the Conquest BFS or something like that to come in. I'm looking at this, and it shows the one we have, but it shows a 50 over here. Now, as far as I know, these are the only ones I've seen. You can get it in 3 different gear ratios, the 100 size reel. So the 50 should be a smaller spool, I'm guessing, but I don't think I've seen that one. So let's dive back into it, because I left a lot out. I did a quick unboxing. The lighting is not the greatest here, but it was even worse where I unboxed this thing from. So that thing slides off. This, I got it backwards again. This thing comes off like this, and you instantly know this baby is made in China. Can you see it? Do you see it now? How about now? Okay, so we know that they need to up their game. All the other reel companies need to up their game. There's some writing over here on this side, right? This is like a coffin for the high-end reels, right? So anyway, and I didn't even look in the original unboxing what is under here. There is another little compartment, a secret compartment. This is like a John Wick movie. If there was only a dog. Anybody got a dog? So all of that hiding for nothing. Maybe some stickers in there. Little ULD Pro AMC from Arise. So that's all that's in there. But very awesome box. I actually like that box. That is cool. Oh, the sticker thing just fell off. Not as cool as you think it was. So let's get this out of here. And there's a sticker thing. It fell off. It's just held on by glue. We'll glue it back. I know, it's fancy, right? So those of you that watched the other unboxing, nothing new here right off the bat. But we're going to dive in deeper because I forgot a lot of stuff to mention. This reel, I thought, and I think is, maybe come out of the same factory that the Art Gravity reels are coming from. If you guys have seen those, they're on Tackle Warehouse. Now, I don't know if they're still pre-order or you actually can get them, but the reel test is done. I don't know if he has all 3, but he's done a test on at least 2 I know of, and one of them had an issue right from the get-go. So this neoprene cover case, if some of you don't know, I know I've seen several unboxings where people don't explain this thing for you. It's not just to transport or carry. These are actually designed to fit over the reel while it's on a rod. So you can use these to transport or in storage with the reel still mounted. That will attach to the reel while it's on a rod. I've never really been a huge fan of these because then they leave the knobs exposed, and if you think, oh, they're protecting, you start bashing around, you can actually destroy some cork knobs and stuff like that with these kind of covers. But they are good. It's nice that it comes with the reel. That's a good plus. So I don't have any of the gravity stuff to compare this to, and like I'd mentioned in the original unboxing, let me try to slow down so it'll stay focused. I had just come from Rogers Sporting Goods right when I unboxed this, so I'd had my hands on, well, I can get my hands on my own reels, but up at Rogers has more selection of the higher end reels than the local Bass Pro Shops here. So I'd taken my because Rogers doesn't carry Bass Pro stuff, so I'd taken my Carbon Light up there to get the feel of some different reels on it. So right off the bat, this is definitely heavier than I guess it looks for the size. More than likely, I'm almost positive it has brass gears in there. It should be an aluminum frame. I'm not 100% sure if the side plate's aluminum. I don't know if I'll dive into that tonight to check, but as heavy as it feels for a smaller reel as it is, I would assume that you're dealing with aluminum frame, side plate, and then this side is plastic, like a lot of manufacturers' higher end reels kind of come nowadays. So I think it definitely looks steezy, looks kind of like the More Than. I had mentioned right off the bat the knobs feel though more Shimano-y than any of them, even than these. It's kind of like these Daiwas. So here, what we're going to do now is give you a little prelude. We're going to do some weights and check some specs, but I'm going to kind of show you the future of this reel is going to get out, and I'm going to do some cast testing with it, but we're going to kind of do a shootout this weekend between these three reels. You guys know this is my favorite. This is my pick. I think it's the best reel made to date so far. Just overall everything, right? The boost spool, drag clicker installed, palms real well. Still a touch on the big side, but very comfortable. I mean, it not on the big side for regular reels, but like for the BFS, the stuff I'm used to. You guys know the deal. Like this little reel here. But here's another awesome all-around fishing reel that I've started using this season, and I kind of actually had, I don't remember which one now. One of these was my chatterbait main reel, but then I switched to try this one out for durability and everything, and I think I like it as well, if not better, on the carbon lights, just for the way the reel seat's designed on those. It kind of can hinder how you palm it. It's kind of weird. I'll talk about it more in another video. But awesome reels, right? The Acuras, also from AliExpress, only $70, $75, but they are all, you can call them carbon or whatever you want to, but basically a plastic framed reel. These are metal framed. 134 right now is what you can get them for. I got this for 124. I think I got this for like 70, 75 maybe. So about a $50 difference. And I'm sure just like that is even more. That right now I think you can get it for $250. I want to say I got it for $230. I can't remember for sure. It may have been $240 or $50, but on Digitaka. So as you go up in price, you're definitely, you know, going up in quality overall, how long they should last before they start wearing, getting geary sounding maybe, or just wallowing out, getting worn down. There's no doubt in my mind this reel will wear out before these other two. But for 70, 75 bucks, by the time it does, there may be a newer, better technology out anyway, to where these, you spent more money, but then 2 years down the road, just like the iPhone, you're like, oh, this is outdated. And that's kind of what's happening in the market nowadays also. So anyway, you're going to see a shootout between these, and it'll probably be with either 3/8 or ½ ounce, probably a chatterbait, because that's what I throw the most, or it could just be a ½ ounce bait in general. But I would call ½ ounces. A ½ ounce bait is probably the staple, the main bass fishing bait thrown weight-wise, right? I know 3/8, quarter, up to 3/4. You could argue, but I'm thinking that ½ ounce is probably, you know, most of your Vision 110s, your ½ ounce rattle traps, whether they're, I mean, other than the LV500, your average rattle trap, I would say red eye shad, and most of those baits being thrown are probably ½ ounce, not 3/4. And your average Texas rig probably ends up weighing a half or just over, or it starts out as a half with a little over. So I think if we throw a ½ ounce chatterbait, testing these out probably on my chatterbait rod, and I'll just have to switch it back and forth. First of all, I have to find a place to, because I know these two will cast a chatterbait a long way. You guys probably seen in recent videos. We're at a place we were fishing at. I fished it from base almost. We were real close to the other side of the bank, and I just turned and cast it, you know, towards the other side, and I was surprised this reel, like almost, it actually got right up against the bank, almost as close as you'd want to get. So it almost hit the bank on the other side. So it can bomb some baits. That's a deep spool, comes with the shallow spool. So anyway, be looking forward to that. And let's get, I guess we should weigh the spools on those. We could do that now, and then for the future video coming up. But first, let's take another look at this for those of you that didn't watch the original unboxing, and compare. I believe this comes with a 90mm handle. It may not be, though. This is the JDM version. But whatever handle that is, the same size on this guy. These are skinnier. This, I Arise has a little skinnier knobs, but I actually like, if you guys look at the end cap, let me try to get to focus. I like these end caps. I mentioned that in the unboxing. I like those better than any I've seen to date on these skinny type rubberized knobs. I just do. I don't like any of these, to be honest. That's why you see on mine I've got those on them. So they all feel the same to me. They're just too flat, in my opinion. They're good. They get good grip. For those of you that want my opinion on what would be better, I don't know. I would probably have to go with the Daiwa. These are starting to get that paddle kind of look thing. I do not like those. I don't like the loose paddle things, or the old school ones, or the ones that I think the Steez A, the original one, came with. So all these reels, they're some of my favorite. They do come with a drag clicker, and of course, you know it, everything on this thing clicks. So that, in my opinion, is a definite plus. And I forgot to also mention that it also has that almost, it looks very similar. Now it's not as big. It's probably more like what the Metaniums are, not what the Aldebaran, like the Aldebaran BFS you're used to, the 16 I had. I don't think it's as big as those, but it's definitely big, and I would call it even or a little bit bigger than this. This is just more like a round cone shape, and this actually goes down and up, probably longer and just about as wide for that line guide. So that part should work awesome. If I had to figure the distance from the spool, this one has a smaller spool. That's a, I can't remember what size spool that one said it comes with, but we're going to weigh up the spools. It's a good little ways away from the spool, the center of the spool, so it should cast good. And I'm going to bring up Jay's name again. Jay's the one that recommended this one to me, and he claims with his in his hands, he doesn't have this reel, but he's got one or two Steezes, I think he said, and Metanium. And he called it the Mighty Metanium. It'll outcast all those reels in his hands. So we're gonna, let's get a weight first. Let's weigh all these reels. If my batteries are still charged. I've got a bad habit about letting the batteries go dead. So let's see if you guys can see that first. Zeroed out. Now I don't have the ounces. We'll just have to go to grams, and you guys calculate what you think it. So 198. So that's heavy. I think it's 7-something ounces. So remember that number. This should be the next heaviest one. It should be lighter than that though. 176. So really, wait a minute. It's not that far. 198. Yeah, that is a lot heavier. 176. So a lot heavier than this reel, which I consider is light for the reel, but when you get to this dude, it is heavy. 138. I don't know if you guys can see that. 138 grams, so this one wins in the light department. And the overall palming department. So before we tear into the spools, and we'll use our special spool scale for that, but we're not there yet. First off, let me move some stuff around. Let's just talk about the palming of these. Like, one easy way, I guess, is to, of course, hold them and get an idea of how high they set up onto the I'd say these are pretty close. Now this is the first time I've also had them side by side filling them. So I should grab a rod. I think this is gonna, this part I think is a touch higher than there, and the one easy way, just without even not having to worry about filling it. Now my batteries are dead, but you can take this thing right here and just put it on basically like that, and get an idea of how high up where your thumb's basically going to set. So I actually know they're very close. I think this one sets a lot lower. Yeah, this one sets a lot, not a lot lower, but lower. So they should be very close, and I already had this one in the original unboxing. I put it on and it feels, I think it honestly probably feels better. I'm getting ready to show you right now if I think it feels better than the Zillion on a carbon light. And we're also going to put it on maybe the most comfortable, hang on, don't go anywhere, reel seat that I've ever had on a rod. Let me get the shortest one just so I have less stuff to work with. Okay, so just for you and me, side-by-side comparison on my thoughts, let me, hang on. I'll first start with the Zillion. So it feels very good. This reel is comfortable. The issue I'm having with this reel seat is how far, where the trigger and the back part of the reel sets into the rod can kind of leave you crimped up if you palm like I do. I know you're saying, well, just palm like this. But I don't palm like that. I stopped palming like that several years back. I keep choking up more and more, but that is still more comfortable than like this, even though now I've got plenty of room. So that's how I palm, for those of you that palm that way. Some of you that don't palm a reel are probably like, why does it even matter what shape the reel is? Well, it doesn't if you don't do that. So let me just give you my thoughts. If you guys can make it out, I think it gives me it feels like it gives me more room there. This part is actually the same. If anything, I can feel this is a touch higher, but it's comfortable, and I think I like that. It doesn't necessarily go, it's almost too dark on this rod anyway, but as far as how it feels on this rod, it feels very good. So now, one more I want to compare. Don't go anywhere. I know this might be a long one. I'm not even doing fireball shots tonight. Oh man, that sucks. So anyway, this is maybe the most comfortable, just overall reel seat that I've liked in a long time. 13 fishing, and I like this rod. I've had some issues with, I feel my hookup ratios with this rod throwing a chatterbait. But the Fate Black is an awesome overall rod for, what are they, $79? Like, they're insanely cheap for as good as they are. Like $79. The step down is like $59, and that rod is horrible. It is, I wouldn't pay $59 for it. But this step up for $79. Now this, and I don't know what it is different. This just feels, this Zillion feels awesome on this Fate Black. It feels better than it does on the carbon light, palming wise. This actually clashes, even though everything's black, but you're dealing with a completely almost black and silver rod and a black and gold reel. Feels good. Feels good, but this doesn't feel as good as a Zillion on this rod. On the other one, the carbon light, I think this feels the same, or actually this may feel a little better. So if I like this reel, what'll be a good thing for me, I may turn it into my chatterbait reel, if it can beat out these other two. So now that you know where my head's at, let's figure out what everything is on this. Let's tear into it. We know it's basically going to have... Oh, Bruce, I thought I would mention that. I have so many videos. I put out like a video every 2 days, but I just did an unboxing earlier today. This, right now, go to AliExpress, you know, AMC Arise, and it'll pop up. You'll find it. And the link, the cheapest store I've seen right now anyway, it's $134, I believe. Some of them will have it for $146. I gave $125. I caught it on sale. So if you don't want to spend, you know, you want to spend the cheapest amount and you're not in a hurry, just put maybe all at wherever you can find it, put them all in your cart and just look back day to day, and if a sale pops up, and check the store you found it at, check for coupons to give $2 off. Some place will give $2 to $4 for every $40 spent, so this one would end up getting you about $8 to $10 off. But just check around if you want to find the cheapest deal on it on AliExpress. It's a definitely good looking reel. I haven't seen the Arc gravity reels in person, but they have that, they've got the front nose, like the Abu Garcia, the new Revos are coming with the nose like jacked over. I don't know, it may grow on me at some point, but for now I don't like any of the reels like that. So I think this one looks better than those gravity reels, but I haven't seen them in person. And I would assume they're coming out of the same factory, just like you can get an Abu Garcia or you can get a Luz, and they definitely look different, but the performance, everything should be roughly the same. Certain companies I know definitely change their specs. They'll have the manufacturer, basically they call them more or less, they're having a meeting, they're telling them like, I want 100% want the best bearings you can put in the spool. Other ones will be like, I want the lightest spool that I can get, and so on and so forth. And same thing with overall shape. They want it to look, maybe they want holes here, maybe they don't want, they want certain colors, that kind of thing. But the overall machining process and all that, the quality is going to be equal across the board for those reels coming out of the same factory. So I'm not 100% sure, but I would almost bet that the gravity reels are coming from the same place this reel comes from. And I can't really... I'm bad about calling how smooth, buttery, or resistance or not something is, because I do have a little bit of line still on that one's what you're hearing. So I would, if I had to call this, now this is 8-5 to 1. This is 7 to 1. I know it's going to sound dumb, but I almost swear I can feel the weight of the gears in this one compared to this guy. But this one, nothing hardly touches it until you get up into quite a bit more money. But it is very... There is no resistance. I can't feel or hear any like geary feel. And it's probably just the fact it's brand new, hasn't even been used, and this one has got a lot of time on it. This is definitely a way freer reel. And then this reel actually is the one that doesn't have a ton of time on it. Let me see, is this the 8 to... Which one is this? Oh boy. I think this is the... Yeah, this is the 8 to 1 in this. And honestly, this one doesn't feel as smooth as this one. But let me see this one. This one, the 7 to 1 that I've used a while, it feels freer than that one, but I don't know about a smooth. It's hard to tell. But yeah, I would say that this guy is feels like very good quality. We'll get it out, put it through its paces for sure, but I have not seen one thing I can knock on it yet, you know, other than just maybe overall looks, aesthetics of something I don't like a certain way. Like, I don't know if I'm fond of that drag star or not. I don't know if it's going to grow on me or I'm going to switch it out. Probably going to switch it out. And I may go ahead and tonight and tear into this, take these off, take the knobs off, see if the Iowa stuff fits or if the handle or whatever, just so you guys will know, because I don't know if anybody's done that yet. So the release port over here, or button for the release. Now somebody commented already, I didn't think this was dynamic. Somebody says, oh, there's springs if you take this and that off. So we're going to double check that again. So we're going to take the spool out of all these reels real quick. We're going to weigh them, and then we're going to dive into the braking system. But first, before we do that, so you'll know, I'll know, everybody will know, right here, right now, as long as this battery's not dead, don't be dead battery. Okay, we're at 0 grams. I know it's got a little bit of line from where I tied my braid on back at some point in time. I don't even know when, but. And so we'll check it with the deep spool on this. There ain't nothing gonna weigh as light as this one, I can tell you guys right now. This is a crazy light spool. If you don't know about this reel, the Acura, I highly recommend that reel for sure. Okay, so let me set that off out of the way. We've got our 3 spools, and I'll just show you real quick, which I'm pretty sure we'll weigh them in between each other. This has got to be the lightest, period. And I'm not going to take the bearings off. This one, they all have a bearing, and I'm sure that this bearing is probably the heaviest. That would be the next, and then that bearing doesn't weigh a bunch. Doesn't weigh but like half a gram, I think. So 7.9, it is a very lightweight spool for a deep spool. Let's just try out. Well, no, let's go with the boost. Most of you guys already know what this one weighs. This thing feels heavier for sure, but that boost spool is no joke. So yeah, 13.3. It's probably more like 12. Actually, it's probably more like 11 something. 13.3 with that. This thing, whoa, what happened? How'd that get so light? What happened to it? It's missing something. Wow, that is light. Let me check this again. So yeah, that is crazy light. Now it does have the long shaft, but still yet, it is a lot smaller spool overall. Wow. Look how light that is. That's got a pretty good sized bearing. I know that probably weighs a gram. So 7.5 maybe? That is definitely, I can already tell you right now that you could take this spool, I don't even have to go out and as long as it's got decent brakes. See how small this one is? So basically, I don't have the shallow spool sticking out anywhere. I don't even know where the next one is. You could BFS with this. If you guys have seen or know what I'm talking about, I can put basically what the, fill this way about halfway up and throw a 2 gram bait pretty good. You kind of take away the boost somewhat. It still works a little, but the boost really works better for heavier and harder casting than what true, you know, finesse lightweight baits. It's still working a little bit, but I'm almost betting that with this thing right here, as long as these brakes are so-so, as light as that spool is, you could just fill it maybe halfway with braid. With braid anyway, it's going to keep it lightweight, the spool. And I bet you this thing will cast BFS stuff real well. I don't know. Jay's been talking about it forever. Jay, you can comment like what all you've already thrown with it in the comments whenever you get to this video. Jay's probably already asleep. Olivia, the box is the best part in my opinion. Well, they definitely got something to work on. All the other manufacturers, I've never seen a box that nice. Yeah, and then Bruce says it ships with the bearings full of grease. Right, and that's what I said. It's really hard to go out and do cast tests with an old reel versus a new one, because a lot of times just the oil that's in the new one, a new bearing isn't really broke in. It's probably not reached its max potential until you get, you know, a little bit of time on it. So, man, that thing is crazy. Crazy light. We got the weight, and I'm definitely impressed with the lightweight spool. So now, let's go. Wait, let me put these up before I get out. Let me just get these out of the way. Buckle up and hang on. Let me get this done. Get these out of the way here. I just wanted to, I guess, to a pair. So I'm pretty sure. I think that was 30. I think this is 32. I don't know. Well, shoot. I got a thing. Where's it at? I got a thing. Let's just see. That ain't right. Anyway, that thing barely fits through. So yeah, I think this is a 32 millimeter. I'm pretty sure that was 30 in the Acura. The dia was 34. I think that's 32 millimeter spool. So you fill that about halfway or so, and you get it up to close to a 30 millimeter spool that's lightweight, and I'm pretty sure there's 100% you're going to be able to BFS with that. But a half-ounce bait, I don't think, I'm just going to call it, in my opinion, and I got lines stuck in here. I'm going to leave that out for now. I don't think it's going to be able to beat my boost spool. It might. I don't know. I'm just... if you guys remember, you can go back and watch when I first got, I think it was this one. I did the cast testing with the boost spool halfway full, the SV boost spool halfway full of braid, as much line as what the Metanium, the Aldebaran 30 MGL would hold. And half-ounce baits, I call them pretty much even maybe, but 3/4 ounce, this boost spool smoked the MGL spool. And then with a 2 gram bait, a little bitty BFS crappie jig, basically 2 gram bait, it beat the Aldebaran, which that surprised me. I thought the Aldebaran with that, you know, just a smaller reel, smaller spool would beat this, and it didn't. And I tried it several different times. So I'm anxious to, we're gonna get out and we're gonna try that spectrum basically like what I did with that. I'll probably for sure do the half-ounce. That'll be the main one I'll be focused to see. But then I'll do a 2 gram bait, and then I'll do a half-ounce, and then I'll probably go ahead and do like a 3/4 ounce. Maybe, I don't know if I've got an old rattle trap or whatever the biggest old rattle trap I have, it will throw it. And I'm trying to decide on what line, because if I use this reel for its intended, what I think it might replace for my chatterbaits, I'm going to use the 15-pound braid, which I just took off this spool. And is it the one? No, wait. It's this amount. This reel right here is the actual one with the chatterbait, or with the original line and all the different tests I've done. But I put it on this reel because this is the one I use for cranking. I wanted half the spool to slow the gear ratio down. Instead of 8.5, it's probably more in a 7 something. But basically, I'll put the line that, I may even take this line off, or just I'll use this spool, will start, and I'll transfer the line to these other reels, because this sucker, believe it or not, that little 30 millimeter spool will hold the same amount like the MGL 30, and half a spool of what the Zillion will hold. Will almost only fills this one, I think, also halfway. But anyway, that's what we're going to probably go with instead of worrying about filling them all the way up. Because if nobody told you now, let me be the first to tell you, just because a spool has a max capacity, you do not have to run a spool at max capacity. If you want the true winding performance of the, 7-to-1, so many inches per turn, to be within that range, then yes, you want to fill it up, just inside, almost to that lip. But here's another plus, a little nugget for you. If you got a reel that you're making crazy long casts with all the time, when you cast out, when you first start reeling, you are nowhere near, especially if you got, not necessarily this is a fairly shallow spool actually, but like, say this reel, if it's called a 7-to-1, when it's on the top, I guess, is when they do the measurement. When that thing, if you make a long bomb and it gets down there, you're probably like at a 6-to-1, a 6-4-to-1 or something, until you get closer to halfway full and then coming in. So I'd heard somebody comment about this on the Steez CT, because they said you can literally cast almost all the line off, and the downside is if you bought the 6:3-to-1 version, you make long cast with like a moving bait, well, you're way down in there. You're more like in a 5 something. So the guy that had made the video I watched said he wished he would have got the 8-to-1. He didn't realize that, and that's the way a lot of these smaller spools are. Even though that spool's turning, you know, you take a 34mm spool. I know I'm doing a little teaching here. We haven't even got into this yet. But if you take a 34mm spool, you kind of have to look at the inches per turn, and a lot of guys don't. I don't have that in my head. Like, I just go on a speed. This is 8.5-to-1. That's 7-to-1. This is 7-to-1. But if you take a 34mm spool, a 32, and a 30, if they were all 7-to-1s, the 34 is still going to be the more inches per turn coming in. You'll probably be able to tell and feel the difference on it. It's going to be faster than your 32. You might not be able to tell a huge difference, but then if you get in the 30, or even like those little alphas like the Geico Pigeon and Silver Creek, those high speeds are actually not as high speed as you think they were. The only one that surprised me, and I didn't like it, the All Bearing 22, was like 8, 9, 8 whatever to 1. It's the XG version of that I felt was too fast for what I did and what I liked. But it was like, I think it's a 29mm spool. But like, you get the Zillion 10 with the 34mm spool. That thing, I haven't fished it. I can only imagine cranks in a crazy amount of line. Or the Revo Rocket. I'm not even sure what the Rocket has. So we're going to get that done in the testing. But right now we're going to test. Let me find something that'll stick. Because one of you guys jumped on there and told me that I'm crazy, and this thing does have dynamic magnetic braking system. This part isn't dynamic at all. You can adjust it, and you don't even really need to look at the numbers. You just go to, you know, if you want the least amount of brakes, you push in, turn it, and when it clicks all the way out, like, there's the max amount of brakes at that setting. So you go to the next stage, it's a little less, or wait, no, it's this way. Okay, so that's the least amount of brakes on that setting. There's another stage up, and then there's as much as you can get. So 1, 2, 3, right? And I'm not sure where the mark is. I still have yet to see where they're telling you. I guess wherever the pins are at. Let's try that. So I guess wherever those pins, the number they're in. See how they got a 1 up top and 1 bottom, Roman numerals, and 2 and 3. So their number 1 is the least amount. Number 3 that we jump to is the most. That's not dynamic though. That's just basically taking, which is kind of cool. I tell you who could use this right away, this technology right away, is the Daiwa. Instead of having a fixed rotor, they could just start making them like this, fixed, but adjustable fixed, where you, and maybe go in smaller increments, just go very little baby steps, just for those guys wanting to fine-tune one that, you know, does have the fixed inductor rotor, whatever you call it, inductor rotor. I call it a brake drum, right? Looks like a brake drum on an old car. But anyway, that's not dynamic. Now I'll probably start out, when I first start, I'll probably start right in the middle. We'll start at the number 2 and just start, and then adjust these and go from there. So basically what you would do is, if you start at number 2 and you end up turning either way, the magnets on this dial all the way up or all the way down, and you still need more, then you would go to the next setting. So I'll probably start at 2, and get out there. But so these, and I do know 100% this dial goes crazy, and I counted them. I counted 42. I may count it again here for you guys. The so you have 3 settings here. What this reminds me of is the old MagForce 3D thing, right? You had click, click, click. You had 3 different ways to turn what the magnets, the force in the magnet field, basically. Then you had the adjustment on your dial, how far in and out that went. So you basically had however many settings were on the outside plus the 3, you know, you could multiply that by 3, and that's how many overall settings you had. A lot of guys still, I guess, I don't know, the 1 or 2 reels I had with that, I didn't really see a big thing of it. But this dial, when you turn it, let's see if you guys can see that. Okay, so there's all the way down, I believe. Oh wait, that's all the way down. Hang on here. Let me see what I got going on here. Okay, so that's all the way towards the spool. You can see where it's actually flush, or so when I turn it down, what is this adjusted? Hang on, I'm lost now. Let me turn it all the way. Now that says it's plus. That's as much braking as you can get. I'm trying to see what's going on here. Can you guys tell what that's doing? I'd swear it's pushing one side up. Okay. Alright, so that does move. See that? And what I'm assuming is happening I'm going to try it. Okay, so yeah, see that? This side and then this side. Now that is all the way down. Now I think what they've done, let me try it. Let me turn it all the way up. Oh, that's weird. Let me try that again. Hang on. Let me get to the bottom of this. So when you turn the magnets all the way down, which that is, and you guys won't be able to tell, but I think they figured out a way to just stiffen up like the spring tension to where it's harder for those things to work their way out. So I'm going to turn it. So the positive means that's going to be the most braking you can get, and it feels like these things have loosened up. Like it doesn't take as much force to pull on them, so that means when you know, they're going to move closer towards that rotor easier, I think is what they've done. I can't tell 100% for sure. But they are dynamic. So you were right. I'm very curious to get this thing out and get it lined up, get it out, and testing it. Jay swears by it. We'll find out. So I want to also so there's as free as it goes. Well, with that setting, it can go one stage freer, and there's all the way up. Definitely just even free spin it like that, it seems like it stops quicker. I don't know, we may have a winner here. And so if this one ends up being something that casts very awesome, I would have to say that, for me anyway, it would also mean that the arc reels are also great casters too. Which if you watch the reel test, go watch his videos on those, the gravity ones. I don't know, he's got several videos out now on them, a couple unboxings, and then on the water. One of his, I don't know, I can't understand why, but something like it didn't change. Something was wrong with the inductor on one of them he had. But honestly, have not seen this reel myself yet in true daylight and good lighting to tell you the exact. It's definitely steezy kind of colored somewhat, but more probably instead of black, more of like a very dark gray on the main. But then there's definitely, this is black and gold anodized. And I mentioned before, it looks better in person than even this video you're watching right now, and pictures I've seen on AliExpress or whatever. Definitely looks better in person, other than maybe the black anodized stuff. Just, I do not like black anodized stuff for some reason. I just never have really. Shiny black. This kind of reminds me of a cheap black auto paint. So, any questions? Oh, wait a minute. Who's talking now? Oh, yeah. I'm going to answer this because somebody finally asked it right in the middle of the deal. Chicken fried steak. That's the name. Watching the crazy guy poking a reel. Dude, if they break, you just get another one. Right? You just order another one and then wait a month. Oh, if you guys haven't ever tried the BFS stuff, first off, let me answer two questions. And one of them you didn't even ask. But the first one, this single lifestyle handle, that's what I call it. Single lifestyle, one word. The I's I turn into Y's, so you just search that word in YouTube and you'll see videos. I make these myself, I don't sell them. I'm debating on getting away from them, but I keep bringing myself right back to it. I started out making these to cut weight on the older school Daiwa Alphas, and then even on the Pixies, because I was trying to match the crazy lightweight they were getting on the Shimano Aldebarans, right? We were doing the Finesse. They didn't even call them BFS. This was before the Aldebaran BFS even came out, you know, but they were making aftermarket spools for the Aldebarans, and guys were posting pics on forums with the Aldebaran with the aftermarket spool and some different lightweight handle knobs assembly stuff. Crazy insane lightweights for the time. I'm like, how are they doing that? So I went nuts. I literally took I ended up with the KTF Pixie, so crazy lightweight KTF spool, single lifestyle the handle, had some crazy little lightweight cork knob on it, still couldn't get close. Ended up taking the whole, I said, well, here's what my theory was, like, what absolutely does this reel have to function, okay? And if it didn't have it, I took it off. So I cut down, if you go back, you can look, I think you'll see me fishing on old videos. I had cut down drag stars that basically like the, I want to say, oh shoot. There was actually an aftermarket reel you could get, like a custom reel coming from a company that had a stars cut down like that, but they like double thickened them. So I cut the stars way down, took off one side of the handle. Actually, at one time, took out the complete line guide assembly, because when you're dealing with for the time was kind of a bigger spool, you didn't really need the line, just could reel right back onto the spool, and it really didn't kill the performance. I could actually do it. I went out and fished for one whole day with the reel without a line guide on it, and it can be done. Yes, sometimes you look down, oh no, it's all on one side or something, if you're like in the wind or you're pulling a certain way real hard kind of deal. So trust me, I put it right back in, but I'd got that thing as light as I could get it and still could not get down to those older Aldebaran weights. But the single lifestyle handle just stuck. I can't get myself back to, once I try it, like I'm going to try it again with this guy, the Zillion. I always just find that I don't need it for one. I always find myself, I get to here when I'm doing whatever, and then so I know right where to grab. Like, you know, if you're not looking down, it's still hard to just grab. You know, you kind of do it by feel sometimes if you're looking, watching your rod tip or whatever, and you reach to reel kind of deal. But I don't have any issues with it. The only issue I've ever heard of, and nowadays I think all of your clutches are tougher, stronger, different design clutches than the old school reels. Some of your old school reels, and especially the longer the handle you would get or heavier knob, if say you were here and you pushed the button, and when you threw to cast, you let off that button, about that time you would stop your cast and would force that handle up, and it could engage the clutch. I've heard of that happening to people that had also tried this out. I think I've only ever done it once on an old Daiwa. Some of the older Zillions and Alphas do have very real smooth, easy to, you know, disengage, engage clutches. And my son had a big time issue with it. He's left-handed, and, you know, he casts with his left and reels with his right. I know he's nuts, but the reels I use work perfect for him. So that's where the single lifestyle come from. You can't, I've debated about making them. Here's the deal, guys. I could make these and try to sell them, but then I would feel bad, because I can literally go, you guys can do it too. That's why I tell you guys, go to AliExpress, track down whatever knobs, handle, you know, the handle assembly you want. If you want to try this, there's cheap ones out there. As cheap as $7.50, complete handle assembly with knobs. Just cut one side off. It's real simple. Use and the easiest ones to do are the carbon fiber. You need to wear a mask, or they recommend wear a mask. Carbon fiber can be cut, rounded off, smoothed down with sandpaper. Dremel tool is all you need, and done pretty easy. The minute you do aluminum, you need to do a couple things. First of all, you may need to deanodize the whole handle. You know, get it cut down, shaped, and it takes longer to get that, you know, smooth and polished up. But they, in my opinion, they look better. This is an old 80mm handle off a T3 Air. At the time, I think these are the only ones you could get. They're built a little bit thicker. The original 80mm Daiwa handle is this one. If you guys remember those, they kind of, in my opinion, looked kind of funky. These looked way better. So I tracked down one. I had a couple at one time. Now I only have the one. Guy he put some aftermarket handle on his Air and didn't want the black one, so we worked out. I think he gave like $25 or so for that, just a handle. But that is probably my favorite handle of all time. 80mm is about, for me, smaller reels, especially BFS kind of stuff. I like that little small one. But anyway, if you want to make your own, I would suggest practice and try, and just go to AliExpress, get a carbon fiber one that somebody's going to want to know this. Pay attention. You want to make sure the side where this bolts on, the nut goes, you know, screws on, cut the opposite side. I've seen it done, you know, if you're not paying attention, you'll cut this side off and then you're like, oh, how do I put that back on? You have to re-drill a hole if you want to do it right. But so pay attention to which side that is. I just cut it off straight and cut off like little, you know, get it close, and then I basically run to one of the little round sanding Dremel things to get it closer, and then just do it by hand with different grit sandpaper. And one of the tricks is to measure, mark with this on it, and make sure you leave room that doesn't look weird, like it's the same shape and it sticks out far enough out here to where if you see this one, it almost could have came out a little further. But pretty simple to do. If you have a Dremel tool, it's one of the easiest things in the world to do, make a single lifestyle handle. That's why, I don't know, even if I bought one, because of time it would take me just to, you know, my time and trouble, hassle of ordering some in, $12, $15, half hour, whatever, however long it takes me to cut and do it, I would have to charge 30, 40 bucks, I don't know, just the hassle of it. So I'm like, no, I'm not going to mess with it. I'd almost have to charge like $50 a handle, and you can do it yourself. First one will probably take you a half hour to an hour to figure it out, but then if you want to make more, by the time you get it done, you can probably make 10 or 15 minutes. Especially if you bought, like, say, 10 or 12 at once and just started doing each process at the same time. But anyway, I'm going to try to go back to these. So what you'll probably see me doing is taking the stock handles, pulling these knobs off, and that kind of stuff. So then my next thing I was going to answer for you guys. Wait. Chicken fried steak just got a St. Croix. Bass X. Yeah, the Bass X, I haven't had any of the new ones. I had the old, the blue. I don't remember which length I had, but those were pretty good rods. And I just looked, I was looking at the new Bass X. The rods themselves are good. I think some about the grip, the handle is a little off for me, but they're not bad. Thank you very much. Chicken fried steak says they sure look cool. Best cheap BFS reel, please. Do you not watch the channel? Right here. Go on AliExpress. Dark Wolf Ultra. Now, it's probably going to be a little more. I caught them on sale, and I was going to be selling some, but I've already sold. Me and Charles did some wheeling and dealing, if you guys are familiar with the show. Me and Charles already done some wheeling and dealing. Both the Dark Wolf Ultra and my spares are gone. I got them for like 55 a piece. But for 65, 70, whatever they are, these are awesome little BFS reels that flat out, the newer versions, they're non-dynamic. They're not dynamic. The magnets don't move during the cast, but there's hardly, if any, performance difference in, say, 1.5 or 1.7. We'll start with 1.7. So 16th ounce or up, I can't really tell the difference. If you go down from that, if you want to do that crazy trout magnet, you guys will probably hear about somebody talking about throwing trout magnets. The dynamic version that first came out, if you add the little magnets, is a touch better there than this reel. It hangs with all of them. But if you want to all around to do BFS and you want to also do regular stuff, then a variant of this Dark Wolf Ultra are these silver ones you're looking at. You can go with this one right here. It comes with this shallow spool and a deep spool just like this. Oh, that is also the same color. And this one also comes with the shallow spool. These are just variants of that reel. Almost all the parts interchange, except for if you have the deep and shallow spool version, the magnets are different, so that parts, those spools won't interchange. But if you change the side plates out, they will. This one's hard to find the cheapest. It's usually the most expensive one. It's going to be about 80, 85. Sometimes you can find it for 75. This one you can usually find for 75. I caught them on sale. I bought the other two. I want to say I gave 65 a piece. But this is the handle. This is exactly the way they come. They all come with this right here. I've switched all these out, but every one of the variants Comes with this, and it's supposed to be bearings. What's funny is these do not spin as free as... I've got one floating around here somewhere that has crazy free bearings in it. But I would recommend these. These are now my favorite, even over the Dark Wolf Ultra. But for if I'm just going to the creeks and streams, that's why I keep this guy around. That's going to be the one that goes. These aren't. But if I'm going to, you know, just all around, and I have the ability with that shallow one to throw BFS size baits, you know, crappie fish with it or whatever. And this is one I recommend. And let's just get you guys completely filled out that are just watching this video and want to know the whole story. This one, go to AliExpress, you'll track it down. The Acura, the Solo King Acura, okay? You got the ability to get 7 or 8 to 1 gears, shallow only, or shallow and deep spool. The shallow only is a little bit cheaper. I recommend just go ahead and get the one with the deep one or whatever. The downside to this reel is they make an 8 to 1 version, and you can only get it with the shallow spool. They make a 7 to 1 version that's kind of pink looking, like that's what this one is. You can only get 7 to 1 shallow and deep spool. They don't cross like there's, you know, it's a little different. So this one is the one that out of the bunch of all of them, and they also make one called the Black Knight 2, which came out roughly just before this guy did, and that's kind of, I guess, the daddy of the bunch. And it has this kind of frame, but it's got a black center and purple sides, and it's called a Black Knight 2. So I was gonna finish off with, even if you're like, now BFS isn't for me, but you have kids or you have someone else that you want to teach how to use a baitcaster, like some of your lighter weight newer reels, especially the higher end ones, that'd be pretty easy to teach someone to use a baitcasting reel with. But I'll tell you one that is even better, or one of these guys. You could take this one, and you really, to just start them out, I would put the shallow spool. I would go with the shallow spool and fill it with braid, cheap braid. Order some cheap braid off AliExpress, or just the cheapest line, if anything else. But only put, you know, as much as one of these little spools will hold. These are so much easier because they're so light a spool. They don't gain that extra thing. And I'm going to give you a quick rundown. And I've got videos out how to use a baitcaster, how to set it, and all this and that. But the simplest way to teach someone that's getting frustrated with the baitcaster, maybe they've tried it, or if you have a buddy and he's just like, dude, and I was at Rogers Sporting Goods tonight, and I heard these two guys were talking about it, baitcasters. You could hear them over there talking. He's like, dude, I ain't using those. Those are this and that, you know. And I was gonna go over there and go, man, you really ought to check out my channel. The baitcaster is one of the easiest. You know, I didn't want to hurt their feelings. The baitcaster is one of the easiest things in the world to use once you figure out how to use it. It took me years because I didn't really have anybody showing me, telling me, but it's pretty simple. When somebody's just starting out, you push that button with whatever you got tight on the other end, and you tighten this up just a little. You know, you just basically giving it just a touch of resistance, and then you dial this thing all the way up. You go as much brakes as you can, and you have them cast. And you make sure they do a sidearm. And I think of it as if you're teaching somebody how to pop a ball up, right? Like hit a fly ball, right? If you're baseball analogy, you don't swing the bat straight at it, and you don't swing the bat down. That's how you hit a line drive, right? So basically the opposite of how you would teach somebody to, you know, not pop the ball up so they don't get out. When you're casting and you're first starting out and you're struggling, don't cast down at the ground. So unless you're casting at this angle, any other way you're casting, you're basically casting at the ground, and you stand a more chance of backlashing. So when you rear back and do a sidearm, aim up. So then when you let go, and keep doing it that way until you feel comfortable on where you're letting go, the bait's landing roughly where you're thinking it's going to land. Start turning down this adjustment on this side until you just keep doing that. At some point, you're going to cast and you're going to see and you're going to feel and you're going to realize that that bait should be going further. You're like, oh man, I'm casting pretty hard and it's not going as far. That's when you really get into start turning it down. Maybe you start casting overhead because you're going to let go and not backlash as much. But I've got videos on it, a couple different ones. I taught the kids in the backyard one day. I was teaching them. I recorded that, and then I talk about it in another video that's one of my biggest, actually to date, it's my biggest fishing video. I've got a bonsai video that has like 350,000 views, but my biggest fishing video, I think, is that how to use a bait caster, how to adjust it, set it, and stuff like that. Now, once you're used to bait casting, you do not want to run this very tight. Now, different people argue and tell you what to do, how to set that. And if you have a zero adjuster, you're going to want to check that. Even if you don't, I'm going to put a video out on that by itself. If you have a dyeable reel that's supposed to have a zero adjuster, that is a lie. There's two biggest lies in fishing. There's such a thing as a zero adjuster, and a longer rod gives you more leverage. It's the biggest lies in fishing, right? Longer rod may in effect give you better line control. It does not give you more leverage on anything. You extend something out longer and you're pulling on it, you're giving more leverage to whatever's on the other end of that. It's just simple science. So anyway, I'm going to end that now. I got to get out of here. I've talked to you guys over an hour. Chicken fried steak. You just want me to give you all my secrets. Which rod reel are you talking about? This one? Or are you talking about... You've searched my channel for the single handle mod. Just go to YouTube in general and type in single handle. You should find the video. You'll see like one of these reels with the handle laying off in the front. But yeah, if after I'm done here, because I got my phone right now, I will go on into this video. I'll find the one I'm talking about and I will post it up there. But basically it's just me doing what I just told you about. Like you take one and then cut it, and it's pretty simple. And then I've got a couple videos showing how I cut down some of these cork knobs, and like this one didn't come out like that. You can order them. They're a little more bulky. They're actually just like this press cork one. You guys can see the difference. They come like that, which is just funky, but you can pull these off. That's one thing about the Chinese knobs. They don't really come glued together, so you can pull it off. And I've got a little kind of I don't know, a little rig I got rigged up, so I slide that actually on the Dremel, use it kind of like a lathe type deal, and then just run either a drill bit to start, you know, something that'll cut into it, and then just sandpaper as it's spinning and just reshape the cork is all I do to get them kind of where I want them. And I kind of like that, but I actually like this. What I need to do is take any more cork handles I get and try to that little bit. So I would need to take a little more off here. That here just feels better, the shape of it. Not necessarily the material, but the shape of it is better than this one. But anyway, yeah, I'll try to track that down and put it on the end of this video. And I'm not sure what rod you were talking about. The Dark Wolf. Okay. Dark Wolf Ultra, hands down, I would get an entry level. I've talked about it a bunch. Charles, I just made a deal with Charles. The Ace Hawk CU Double. And I have to give credit to, well, Jay said he recommended it last year or something, or before I got it, or something. But the very first person I've ever heard talking about the Ace Hawk CU Double was the Real Test. And he's got two now. You'll watch him out there doing it, and I keep complaining he never peels the plastic off that nasty looking handle, right? But that is the best bang for your buck, and that may be still the best BFS rod, period, because it's $37 right now. I was going to get it for like $30 or $32. I was going to buy a new one, but I traded Charles out of my old one back. It comes with two tips. It's a 6-foot rod, comes with two tips, an ultralight, which is awesome, but I like it with the light for little cranks, like the little Proberos, a 6-8 gram crank type deal. Man, that is an awesome little BFS rod with the light. But the ultralight is one of the best casting you know, that tip is awesome. The downside to it, for me anyway, when I'm thinking ultralight, I'm thinking something that I'm kind of playing with the fish. I'm kind of like having fun. It's almost too powerful for little creeks and streams, in my opinion, because it just it works so good. But so I like, you know, I have my Rainy Stream, which is a high-end one from China. It was $200. Kyrum Rainy Stream. The streamer or any of the Teton rods. I kind of would pick over that littlest creek and stream and letting the fish have an advantage. Now, if you're just like, I just want to catch that fish, Charlie, then the CU double, hands down, for a 6-foot ultralight rod, you can't beat it. And you can't beat it in general. Just it's under $40. You can get this even when it's not on sale. You're just over $100 in a BFS combo that you, trust me, it will not let you down. But when you catch this on sale and you get the CU double on sale, you're under $100. You're probably going to be able to buy some line and other stuff and still be within $100. So I push those two. I've talked about them a lot. I don't make any money. I'm not affiliated with none of those people, but you cannot beat those two. Now, what I've got coming, and I'll just tell you guys that, and this is going to end up being a 2-hour video. Me and Charles traded. You guys remember you saw the cool looking Salamandura sitting over here and the Geico pigeon? I know. Gecko pigeon, I call it affectionately Geico pigeon, just like I affectionately call Shimano's Shitmanos. I might end up getting a Shitmano. But anyway, traded Charles the two. Basically, they are the newer style Alpha variants. And then the two Dark Wolf Ultras for... Do you guys remember the Joker? The lingle that I customized? Getting the Joker back, the CU double, and the Calcutta Conquest BFS. Yes, it's coming back for one reason. It's going on my Rainy Stream, and that is going to be my high end. When I go creek and stream BFS fishing, I'm going to go with that. In all honesty, this reel on a CU double will probably beat what I can do with the Calcutta Conquest and the Rainy Stream, but I will be way cooler fishing with the Conquest BFS and that Rainy Stream. And overall feel just like I could probably, I'll have more fun with that combo than I would with this, but this combo, in all honesty, like say if I hooked into a 4-pound fish on a little place that I, you know, could run me under somewhere or something, like I don't have a lot of room to work with kind of deal, I would almost put more confidence in this combo. And then throwing the lightest of baits, I would probably put more confidence in this. Now it's coming with, if you remember, I bought the Chameleon spool. I own that reel and I traded it to Charles, so it's real close on performance with this. But I think that 6-foot rod, because the Rainy Stream is only 5'6", you could definitely get more distance with lighter baits with the CU double versus a Rainy Stream. You can have more fun, and it's a touch more, I guess I'd call it parabolic, and it's a lighter weight rod. The Rainy Stream is. It's just it's one of those things where, you know, it's kind of like a comfort, a feel, cool factor all played in. But yeah, Ace Hawk's the name of the company. You put in Ace Hawk, put in the letter C, then the letter U, then the word double, and then you'll find it. But yeah, and it's gonna look nasty. I don't, the one I'm got coming back from Charles, I already put a cork handle on it. It comes with this crazy brown. If you see it in one of my other videos, I just had it on the front. It's actually comfortable and it works fine, but it just something, it throws you off when you're seeing it. You're like, oh no. I call it the 70s couch look. It just kind of looks old and retro, like, but not in a good retro way. But it does go with, like, there's several things that would actually go with, like this color would probably mount right on there and be okay, because it has like a off gold to it. So what else? Any other questions while I'm on the subject of BFS, I guess? And I'm curious, 2 grams, that'll give us an idea what this is capable of with BFS. Now let's talk about what I still may get, because I know how I am. You guys know how I am. Once I get something in my head, it's hard to get it out of my head, and then I get it, and then I decide I don't like it. But I still have Steez on the brain because I was up at Rogers Sporting Goods. I never even really filled you in on everything I learned at Rogers Sporting Goods today. I was up there with the carbon light testing out different reels on it, and then I went and held it up against different rods because that carbon light says it's a 6'9" medium heavy fast action. It is not fast. It's not moderate, but it's like an in-between, which is perfect. That's why I started using it with chatterbaits, and it's just awesome for chatterbaits with braid, if you use braid. So I compared it to a few rods up there. And the closest, I guess, I didn't compare every rod, but a couple rods. There's a Falcon Cara rod, and I want to say it was 6'10". If it wasn't so high, I think they're like $200. But it's Falcon Cara rod, definitely lighter than the carbon light, but it had about that same bend. Like it was probably the closest. But other than just being a little lighter, why would I spend the extra money for it over this rod to have the same performance kind of deal? And it's a chance it may not be as good as I think it is, but it definitely feels about the same. Falcon Cara, I want to say 610 medium heavy. Anyway, the other one, I think it was only $129. It's the older version of the Tatula. So it's got a long cork handle, and it's got a black reel seat, and it's a black rod, but it's got the weird reel seat to where it almost looks like they tried to form part of the reel seat at the back. It kind of starts to come up and then drops right back down and then goes into the cork, full cork handle. And I think it was a 7-foot medium heavy. Maybe it was shorter. I can't remember. But the Tatula rod, that felt good too. Felt pretty light. You know, because both of these rods I was looking at, they don't have the thing about the carbon lights, which makes them more durable mainly, but they've got a fairly thick coating of paint, white or whatever, that probably makes them more durable. But like filling them in hand, there's a ton of rods that feel better than them carbon lights. But I'm telling you, when you get the carbon lights out on the water and you just start fishing them with braid, the hookup ratio and the overall feel and just how they work, it's hard to beat for me and in my hands. So then on the reels, I basically I tried the newest, not the Elite, but the Pro TI, the new reel. I tried the old version. I even tried the Mach Crush, the orange reel, and it actually didn't feel bad at all, but it kind of bunched up too. It felt almost like the Zillion does on the carbon lights. I tried the Metanium. I tried the Bantam. I should have tried a Corrado, but the two Corrados I had in the case, the 150 Corrados were the 150 MGLs were left hand, so I didn't even mess with those. I tried the old Zillion, the older version than this one, the kind of bluish, light bluish. I tried the 10, the Zillion 10, the black reel with the blue highlight stuff, which it feels just like the old Zillion. The Steez, the Abu Garcia. Oh man, that is a letdown. Also, I forgot to even mention that the new Abu Garcia Xenon. I don't know what it'd feel like on another reel seat, but it felt horrible on the carbon light. He handed me that reel. I was like, here, remember this one? Because he'd showed it to me before, and it was the only one up there other than the Zillion that had a drag clicker. Crazy big paddle knobs. But I put that Xenon on there, and instantly, if you've seen the Xenon, you know what I'm talking about. It's got that humped up here for the dial. Instantly, that just dug right there into my, like, it felt horrible on the carbon lights. Looked cool as hell. Felt nasty compared to any of those. There's no way I would, I don't plan, that's an expensive reel. I mean, it looks like it's built good. It's I think it's a good reel, but there's no way. The palming, it's a very small reel, but it's horrible on how it's worse than the Aldebaran 22 in my opinion, on how it would palm, and fishing it for a day would feel on your hands. The Aldebaran's not bad, but that little thing sticking out just looks gaudy and it annoys you after fishing it a while. And I had too high a gear ratio. Brew Tank, yeah, you ended up with a good reel. But anyway, out of all those, I came down to two reels that felt the best on the carbon lights. I'm not saying on every other thing, because like I showed you guys, the 13 fishing rod, this doesn't feel as good as what the Zillion does, but the Zillion doesn't feel as good on the carbon lights. So the two that I came up with just crazy good feel on palming are the Shimano Bantam and the Steez. It's hard to call which one felt better. I would say up here, the Bantam, nothing can beat that Bantam. It just has this, like, it's kind of like the Zillion. My thumb anyway, like, it's just there. There's nowhere else for it to go. So it gives you that almost solid but connected, like you're attached to a thing. You're holding on to it. The Bantam is as good, if not better, than this. Probably better. The downside was I just feel that Steez is almost like this reel. When I grabbed it, this connection on the carbon light is just crazy good, and then it almost feels just like this reel. This reel is definitely a close, has to be close in some of the, you know, size. I don't even know what the word I'm looking for is, but how that Steez is made up, even though it doesn't quite look like it up here. But the Steez felt very good, I'm not going to lie. It has me thinking a Steez A on the, not for this, not for my 6'9" medium heavy, but for my 7-foot heavy, it probably makes more sense to get the Bantam, because then that would balance better. Or the Steez A, because it's a heavier reel, but it's also got a clicker right off the bat. I track one down. I actually think I can get a Steez A, very nice shape, for 260 bucks. And the Bantams, they're roughly, the Bantam I can get cheaper than a Steez A, but if I get the Bantam, I definitely want a clicker. Figure that price, whatever it's going to cost me. You're talking roughly the same price. With the Steez A, and you guys know the deal, why I like the idea of it better is just a simple fact. This spool will fit right in it. The shallow spool, if I ever want to get one, or I could go nuts and just buy that Steez Limited shallow spool one and put it in whatever, you know, on whatever carbon light I want to. Hello, Gus, you're late. We're about ready to end this. We've already an hour and 20 minutes staring at these reels. I guess you guys that are very new, some of you may not even get what I'm talking about when I say boost. This SV boost spool, so we'll compare it to this one real quick. This is just for the very, very new to Daiwa. Like, you don't understand what I'm talking about with the Daiwa rotors, inductors, and all that. I'll give a quick little rundown. So this thing, it's fixed, and you can adjust how far out it comes, but it's there from wherever you put it back into that reel, it's going to stay right there. All of your Daiwa reels, any of your higher end, I think some of the cheaper ones have different braking, but they're going to come with a spool with this thing on it. Now this, though, can be in nowadays several different configurations. There's a few ways you can change the performance of it. This boost one, what they've basically done is there's 2 springs in there. I know it sounds simple. I don't know why they call it a boost. It's marketing, I guess. But if this thing would focus, what you have is, and it still won't focus, just barely pull that out, right? See how far that's coming out? And I think normally with the SV system, that little bitty lightweight spring lets it come way out here. Very little force. Well, with the boost, that lightweight spring goes to here, but then from here out, I really have to, you know, put a good grip on that and pull harder. So what that does, when I cast real hard, that will come out. So basically when I cast, this thing's designed on a ramp. So this thing's popping. So you got a little, so you see when I twist, like if I cast light, it may just only kick into that one. It may not ever kick into that one. But if I can't, like, so maybe if I'm out there flipping and pitching, it may not ever kick all the way in. But when I cast hard, it kicks all the way, and then somewhere along the line as it slows down, it goes in, but then that little spring is still holding it out, and then towards the end of the cast, it goes all the way in. So it's dynamic. It's changing throughout the cast. There's different stages there to it. So they also can change this by, even if it's a single one, sometimes certain spools will come with a stiffer one. Like an SV spool has the lightest you can get. They make the spool shallower, and they lighten this spring. But then on other spools, if it could be a deeper, or it could even be a sort of shallow spool, but this spring could be a little tighter, and those are like your hyper long cast stuff. So you can't get as much breaking into them. But then they can also change the size of this. First of all, how high up it goes, and then how thick the material itself that it's made out of is. So there's multiple ways. Now, you'll hear of, like, there's Daiwa fanboys, spool Nazis. There's guys out there that collect every spool that's ever been made in this 34 millimeter. Trust me, they're out there. They've got every spool that's ever been made, and there's guys that have every aftermarket part and spool and springs and different stuff and swap them around. And they have ones that they're probably setting up in the little boxes they came in, they're not going to touch. But then they also have just ones that they monkey with. You can go in there yourself, pop that little C-clip out, swap out inductors onto different spools, springs, and just monkey with these and play around, and just that's something some guys do. I've never quite gone that far. I started down that rabbit hole, but not really. But that's a cool factor about Daiwas. This Daiwa reel right here, and I don't even know where my old spools are at the moment, but I've got an old TD Ito spool. It'll fit right in here and work. So not every 34 millimeter spool. There's some that, and there's some, I want to say 35 millimeter. I don't know. There are a slight few that won't work, but almost every Daiwa that came with the 34 millimeter spool, like your the old TDZs, the old Steez, the new Steez, the spools interchange. The ones that come to mind that won't, and I can't remember the exact model names or anything, but when they first switched to T-wings, I believe, now the T3s will, not the Air, but the T3s, and I think that's, in my mind, I'm thinking that's where they first kind of popped up with they didn't necessarily call them SVs, but like a 1016 and I think that's where they were first getting the idea for the SV, and stuff was on the T3s. But those will work. But then when they first came out with the T-wing and not the pop-up hood, your first batches of, if you guys remember right, the first batches of Tatulas, now they come with a longer shaft, so none of that stuff will interchange. Tatulas they're all out there by themselves. But the first Zillion, which was based off that Tatula frames, these were wider. So they are the however many models that you can't just swap. But there's a ton of years of this spool going. So if you own the old TDZs, you can actually get one of these shallow or this boost spools, and they will fit in there. Now, as far as I know, I don't know 100% for sure on this part of it. Other than the 3D, the MagForce 3D stuff, I want to say that all of the magnetic stuff in there, other than sometimes the housing's made of metal or plastic, I think the magnets and all that are all been the same through the years. I've never really heard if these are supposed to, I've known that magnets are supposed to lose. I know if they get hot or, in like an electric motor, magnets will lose their force, their power. They tend to get weaker over time. But I don't think you have that issue, I guess, maybe in a reel. So if you had an old, I don't even know, does anybody know? I know I don't know. I know it was a long time ago. I was wondering that also. So if this spool interchanges and it's been made over the years, this exact configuration, right? 34 millimeters, this wide with this exact shaft. What was the very first reel that Daiwa put out that had that size? Was it the they made a TDX. I think maybe the same. And I mean, I don't know. Maybe you guys know. Maybe I need to do that research. I'm not going to do it. I don't have the technology or the brains. But what would be cool is to see just the, stages of the evolution anyway for this spool. Like, what was the first reel and somebody to stage, maybe just even if it's just a pick of, TDX, TDZ, and then show all the reels that size spool will fit. Would be a cool little video somebody put together. Technically, I probably could, but I don't want to get 500 views and spend all that time and research. Besides, I'm not a reporter or a writer. Bruce Nichols used to zap magnets on slot car motors. Yeah. Oh, trust me, we played with not necessarily magnets. I don't know if you guys are familiar with RC racing, the old school stock motors, right? They were fixed timing and all that. We had a guy and he was cheating. That dude was taking, say if that's the inside of a stock motor, right? And you got the copper windings basically go around that, and the magnets on the older ones, they were on the outside, okay? So you're talking brush. There's brushes, magnets, and coils. What he was doing, they had to be a fixed timing. It was a spec type racing. We're almost positive he was figuring out a way to hold that and putting it on something and basically twisting the shaft, which in a sense twists the wires and stuff, and where the stator, where all that stuff connects, hits the brushes, and advancing the timing on the stock motors. Because it made this crazy whining noise, like when he'd jump, in the air, it'd be like, whee! Way different than any other stock motor. I'm pretty sure that's what he was doing. He was cheating. Yeah, and that's what it is, advancing the timing, like without, because then like your mod motors, they simply just undid the screws on the end and you just advanced it. You could set them for just true crazy speed, but then they get hot and burn up or whatever. So you had to find that fine line, and a lot of guys, spent money on dynos and stuff to tune that to get it to perfect. And back in the day, like at first, it was like when I first started RC racing, it was a 4-minute race, and your batteries, like you topped them and peaked them, and like you'd like die out on the last lap. You'd be lucky. Like you'd see guys, they like coming around for the last lap and literally car within 2 seconds would die and not move itself again. That's how fast they could like drop the juice. Nowadays, lipos and all that, they'll run for an extra crazy time. But then if you kill a lipo, you usually kill it though. Them old batteries, nickel metal hydrides and the NiCads and stuff, man, you could get those things so hot and then just like cool them down with a fan and recharge them and go again. They didn't last as long, but they go through some crap. But when they died, game over. I saw many races lost on that last lap because the guy was geared one notch, one tooth too high. Crazy fast, be beating everybody, and then couldn't finish the race and get beat by everybody. That was the life of NiCads and nickel metal hydrides. Oh, shim the magnets and close the gap in the armature. Yeah, I never got that much. The most I ever did when I was into that, like, because I worked at an RC track, called races and stuff, but so I got parts at cost. So we get a new batch of like Trinity motors in, and they had the specs on it. You could read what they were, and like a lot of guys wanted RPM, like a lot of guys wanted torque. I just, for whatever reason, I was an RPM guy. I wanted the most RPM, like for the straightaway kind of thing in my mind, and then I adjusted the gear to that. But so when we get a batch of 6 or 8 motors in, man, I'd be looking, and if I was ready to buy a motor, I usually had first dibs on it. Me and the owner, if he wanted. But what's good thing about the owner, he was a torque. He liked the torque one. So we get a batch of 6 or 8 in, and he might pick the torque one or whatever, and you could go to Hobbytown, everybody, you could get those offline. People were selling them on eBay back then, or Craigslist, or all that stuff. It was insane. It's still kind of like that now in the stock. The stock is in my opinion, is nuts. Like they go faster than some of the mods. They definitely go way faster than our mod motors used to go. Old enough to remember when the Blackfoot was released. I don't think I remember when it was released, but I know which one you're talking about. The grasshoppers and all those. I remember being a kid, and there's some paint store around here had the model RC cars. I couldn't figure out for the life of me why they were so expensive, because they would literally sell an RC car model with model cars like in the same area at this paint store. So you'd have like a $10 or $12 model, and then you have this 200 or 197, whatever they were, 125. And my mom never would buy me one, and I didn't know then what they were, but what I was looking at was the Tamiya Grasshoppers and the Hornets or whatever, wanting one of those. But when I got into RC racing, there was RC10 GT, the Losi, I want to say the Double X, the Double XT CR Graphite Plus was the hottest truck. The Double X buggy, the RC, oh, maybe the T3 was out, or the T2, I can't remember, on the 10th scale. And 8 scales were just kind of new and up and coming. Like, I don't even think, I want to say it was basically, shoot, was it Mugen, or was it, I know Offna was like the cheap off-brand kind of thing. Like, there's several guys ran Offna, but they were cheaper. I want to say Kyosho maybe. Yeah, the Kyosho. I've only ever owned a couple 8 scales. I'll put it to you this way: I am not a huge gas guy. Me and gas cars, I've been electric. That's why at some point in time I'll probably buy a full-size electric car. But yeah, the Offna had some sort. I remember several guys. Sam Lynn. Oh shoot, bunch of different guys. Chris Kovacevic had an Offna, of course. Chris Kovacevic had everything at some point in time in RC racing. But several guys ran all that. But when I started, there were like 7 or 8 scales. That was it. 7 or 8 guys would show up, and they ran them in like one heat by themselves. And it was a 10 scale track, outdoor track. But gas truck and 10 scale truck, period, around here in the KC area, truck was like, the 10 scale trucks was what was going. Like stock, there was a mod, and there was the gas trucks, RC10 GT. If you remember right, A-main chassis were a big thing. And first thing I bought was a RC10 GT. I went to Hobbytown, bought it. Oh my God, horrible luck with it. Couldn't keep it running. Didn't even know there was a racetrack. Didn't even know they raced them. Harold Emanuel, ran into him at Hobbytown. He told me about racing. Me and my cousin Bobby went out, watched the racing all night. We just stood there, watched them from the time they started until the time they stopped. Took that gas truck back to Hobbytown, traded it for an RC10 at the time. I thought it was a good deal. It was a horrible deal. An RC10 GT, I traded for an old nasty T2, which was not good. Or no, RC10T, I think. Maybe a T2. It was a horrible truck. Electric, not good. But I started racing. And man, I had the most fun them first few years learning. Didn't know a thing about it. Basically punched the throttle and just tried to steer it around corners kind of thing. But got pretty good there for a while. I ended up winning. I went down to the Georgia Watermelon Classic on one stock truck. That was the highlight of my RC career. That was like 2000, 98, 2000, I don't know. A long time ago. Long time ago, one big event where we went out of town. Now, I've won a few other. I won something at World of Wheels. They had a carpet thing. I beat out Bill Sider. He let me, he didn't let me win, but he could have taken me out in the first turn and my car got loose. He held up, and then, of course, you know the deal. Cars behind him just took him out. So I definitely had to thank him whenever the race was done for not taking me out. So I won that race. But I was running pretty good that night. That was, I want to say the HPI RS4 Pro. On-road four-wheel drive sedans. Those were nice cars in the time. That's probably one of my favorite things to race. Four-wheel drives in general. Of course, if you guys know Noah now is racing. He has gas and electric 8 scale, 2 and a four-wheel drive buggy in 10 scale, and I don't have anything at the moment. That stuff is expensive nowadays. Alright guys, I gotta get out of here. An hour, this video is an hour and 40 minutes, and the last 20 minutes we've only been talking about nothing to do with fishing. But that's fine. Very anxious to get this out and try it. Stay tuned, see if this will win my heart and I stay away from Steez reels. Probably not, but you never know. Could. If this thing does crazy like Jay says it does, in my hands anyway, I may just get a couple more of these and call it a day. But really, for the channel, I need to just stop doing that. I need to just stick with this one and then try something else, right? But how can you not buy at least 2 of them? I don't know. I need to sell this stuff and only keep 1 of each, and then try something else. I'm curious to try. Oh God, an hour and 40 minutes and I'm still talking. The reel test, if you watched, he did that white reel, Stormtrooper wheel, the Piscifun. I've heard everybody call that name different everywhere. But anyway, that white reel, I had found a gold one. It's called the the Valley Mini. Gold one. Did I say gold? Silver reel with pink, like even brighter than this pink accent parts. That is a true BFS reel. It looks to be the exact same frame and all, but I don't think it's considered a Piscifun. It's a Valley Mini is the only name I could see on it. It's $99 though. But it does look cool. I don't know. That piqued my interest because I thought about getting one of those black ones. I watched a few other guys on doing unboxings and overall videos on those. It's crazy light, should work good, and it's only $50 some, and I can let Noah use that instead of any of these other reels on actually this rod, because Noah likes this rod. And this, so the Fate Black, that black reel would look very good on here. So I may just buy that one, and if I like the way it palms, that'll be my like gateway reel, or yeah, gateway reel to buy the silver with the pink ones. And then because if I like that reel, that'll go on one of my purple rods that's intended for girls to fish with anyway, along with this one or the Black Knight or whatever. So you never know what my mind's thinking about and what I might buy for this fishing stuff. But I will be honest, I thought I wanted the older Bantam just because it's more silvery looking, but when I took the newest Bantam, which is a darker, it's not this dark, I don't think. It's close to this dark, or I mean it's darker than this, but not by a lot. But when I put that brand new 2020 whatever Bantam on the Carbon Light, wow. It's funny, is that old Carbon Light Bass Pro Shops, only 129, 30, you know, whatever they are, rod, made that Bantam look so cool. And they, you know, it just looked like a cool combo because it has like silver and, you know, kind of the gray and then that dark gray. It just looked good. I was like, man, that's a good looking combo, and it feels awesome. So what you may see is a couple Steezes pop up and a Bantam pop up on my 7-foot heavy action for you know, overall jigs and frog rod, that kind of stuff, because it's definitely built for it. And then we'll see what this one goes. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Gotta go. Gotta work tomorrow, and then I'm off for the weekend. I'm gonna be doing some cast testing, maybe doing a little few shots of Fireball. Maybe I'll do a live stream every time you guys comment what word I use the most all the time, and we'll take a shot every time I say that word, right? During a cast test. You can cast test and drink. You don't drink and drive, but you can cast test and drink if you're, you know, at home cast testing out in the front yard. We'll be able to do that with the smaller baits, but I'll have to find a place first to go do the long cast stuff. All right, later, guys. Get some sleep. I don't know what time it is where you're at, but it is... What time is it? I don't even know what time it is. Oh, boy. It's 10:30. I'll be honest. A lot of times I don't go to bed till 11 or midnight, and I have to get up at 4:45.